Okay, so we are here to talk about AI and the use in law firms. Now, AI got really big and really hot back in, January, February. And I got interested when ChatGPT came out and everyone started talking about it. And I noticed that they started talking about how it could help law firms with marketing. And I think it can do so much more than marketing. And so what I really wanted to do was talk about how it can help actually boost profitability. So that is what we're going to do today. So there are about 3 things I want to talk about. And Pam is in the process of jumping on. She hadn't done it yet, but she is coming. The first is I want to talk about how to redeploy your team to maximize skills. AI is an incredible tool. It can take a person who doesn't have a huge skill set and really raise their skills. So how can we use that to our benefit? The second thing that Pam and I want to talk about is new billing theories. So how, using AI, we can take something that, took us a long time to do before, and now we can do it really quickly. So how do we do that faster? Now, how do we bill for it? All right. And then the third thing is, how are we going to train the next generation? There's Pam. How are we going to train the next generation of attorneys? Right? So those are our 3 topics today. How can we redeploy our team to maximize their skills? How is our billing going to have to change? And what are the new billing theories? And how are we going to train the next generation of attorneys? So Pam, after our little glitches today, since our team thinks we're smarter than we are, I'm an old dog. You can't teach me new tricks. I can only do this one way.
Good afternoon, Brooke. So, what's our first discussion prompt?
We're talking about redeploying your team to maximize the skills.
So, you have done a lot of research on this. I can speak to, how we use it and how we redeploy the CAFCAP team, but maybe you can speak towards how attorneys might do this.
I think the thing that I had seen the most, and we have a new client that did this that I think is absolutely amazing. He is a PI attorney. And there's a lot of stuff that paralegals have to do that's very repetitive work, creating medcrons and going through and pulling out treatment codes and stuff like that. And traditionally, that was what his paralegals did. And they had to be fairly well trained. They had to be able to read it, to be able to take a medcron, take all of those pages in a medical chronology and put it together into some kind of form that made sense, right? That was shorter. He got offshore employees, and his offshore employees are using AI to create the medcrons, and they're using AI to go through and pull out those treatment codes. And then what he did was he took his paralegals and he turned them into customer service people. They're there to really talk to his clients because customer service is so important. Do you know who Peter Shankman is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got some good stuff out there.
Oh my gosh, he's incredible. So for those of you that don't know him, he created a service called Harrow, Help a Reporter Out. He's really big into marketing. And he's actually, Pam, I don't know, do you know the story about how he broke the internet or almost broke the internet?
Mhm.
So he printed some t-shirt and he got on like the Today Show or Good Morning America. And I mean, he was like selling them in Times Square or something, but he had set up a very early website. And so he went on TV and started selling them. And like that afternoon or the next morning, he got a call from AOL because, you know, that's where the internet was. And they were like, excuse me, what's going on with your website? He's like, what do you mean? You have now crashed 4 of our 5 server farms. Like he almost crashed. He crashed 80% of the internet. So anyway, so I was at a thing recently and he said that the customer experience bar, the customer service bar is set so freaking low in this country that you can hardly trip over it. And he said a couple of things. He said that if you admit to a problem and proactively fix it, your retention rate goes up by 2.5x. That's huge, 250%.
Mhm.
And then if you ask a client how they want to communicate and you communicate their way, your retention rate goes up by 2.7x. So when this client took all that repetitive work and sent it offshore to people that he's paying what? What's he paying them, like $2,500 a month?
Mhm.
And then took his $60,000 or $75,000 a year awesome paralegals and turned them into customer service people that are really working with his clients. His retention went up, his referrals go up. The client experience in his firm has just gone like this
Mhm.
because his clients are so much happier. And I think there are all kinds of ways that we can do that.
And I think that I know he's had impact on the internet, but I think there's similar advice being given within the medical field right now, that if you admit a mistake and that you are proactive in that, that the number of lawsuits go down. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's all on that PI food chain. But getting back to AI, so how he's been able to redirect his team, and I think that's a really important efficiency, because we're seeing similar efficiencies within CAFCAP. You know, we are in a position where we're using, and this faces a lot of our clients, is how do I scale? What's the biggest barrier to scaling? The biggest barrier to scaling is retaining people. And if you scale, you will always be training people.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we do a lot of, because we're a fully virtual company, we do a lot of trainings, we record the trainings, and now we're downloading those trainings, getting the transcript, putting it out into AI. AI's summarizing it. And you know what? They're even creating quizzes. So going forward, we can be so much more efficient because we can design a class and a path that really creates efficiency for how we can make sure not only are we training people the same way every time, but that we're validating that the training has been absorbed.
Yeah. And, you know, if someone's having a problem with a particular thing, AI will even create a training on that, or will create a quiz on that particular issue. Because it can do it like that.
Well, and that's what it's doing from the transcripts for us.
Yeah. So when we look at a law firm, there are things that it can do. You know, one of the most time-consuming things for lawyers is legal research. And, you know, AI can scour a massive database of legal documents, cases, statutes, and find the relevant information, right? There are also AI tools out there, and I think this is totally cool. I mean, this is the nerd in me, Pam, I don't know. But they can analyze patterns and trends in past cases to inform future legal strategies. So you can feed in your judge and you can feed in your opposing counsel, and it will look at the judge and the opposing counsel's decisions and the way they try their cases. It will help you find the right strategy, which, I mean, how stinking cool is that?
That is cool. That is cool. So you know what? All I hear when I talk to people about this, whether it's clients or just socially, is everybody's talking about Chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
And so there's AI and there's Chat GPT, and then there's something that sits on top of Chat GPT, you know, and you know, I think that there's kind of two camps when it comes to AI. One group that is like, this is the new the new change that is going to be as impactful as the internet, as Google was back in the day, probably 20 years ago. This is the new Google. But you know, there's a big difference between the regular Chat GPT, the paid Chat GPT, and then these things that lay on top of Chat GPT. And you know, I think it was last week that I discovered that Chat GPT database is 2 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shoot, that's not helping me out.
No, that is not helping anybody out. And I don't know. So there are a couple of problems. So Chat GPT, yeah, I think it's October of 21 that regular Chat GPT, it has indexed the internet through. Paid Chat GPT is a little newer. It's indexed further. And I don't really suggest using Chat GPT. Have you heard about the guy at Levido and Oberman?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that don't know, 30-year attorney, turned in a brief opposing counsel.
Somebody our age.
Yeah, somebody our age. I mean, this was not a neophyte, right? This was a practicing attorney. He knew what he was doing. He was not, you know, some baby attorney. Turned in a brief. Opposing counsel couldn't find the cases. Judge was like, you know, dude, we can't find these cases. Are you sure? And he, you know, guy doubles down. Yes, those are real cases. Judge still can't find them. Guy finally admits that he used Chat GPT, and Chat GPT hallucinated, made them up. For all we know, it was citing cases from, oh, what's that movie? Like, My Cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been citing cases from My Cousin Vinny. So you want to be really careful what you're using. So if you are using this for legal research, Chat GPT has some problems. One, it hallucinates. Two, they've had some security issues. They've had a breach where other users could see your prompts, which means that you're not keeping your client information safe. The other thing is when you use Chat GPT, you are allowing them to use all of your prompts and information in their algorithm. So you become part of their database. Again, client confidentiality. I think I had something else. And there's some other reason why I don't like Chat GPT.
Oh, you never can get into it, maybe?
I don't know. I have the paid version. So it's not great. What I do like are the companies that are out there that are using the Chat GPT technology, but they're layering something on over it. So it's companies like CoCounsel, Luminous, Nalanda Technology, Spellbook, or Harvey, which you can't get. But these take what ChatGPT can do and the technology that it has, but then they limit it. So let's talk about CoCounsel. CoCounsel is great at doing contract review. It does legal research. But when it does legal research, and some of you may know the name CoCounsel, it's a case text product. It limits the legal research to just the case text database, which means that number one, it's all the cases because the case text database is more recent than just October of 21. Number two, it screens out the cases that were used in My Cousin Vinny. So, it doesn't hallucinate. So it kind of puts a fence around it. It also does electronic discovery. It does litigation and regulatory compliance. It'll give you general insights. And it solves for that client confidentiality program or problem. And I got to tell you, I love CoCounsel. I think it is so cool. The first time I did a demo with them, I did it with my brother. It was like the crack of dawn. I had hauled him into his office at like 7:30 in the morning. And he's gone through and he's like, whatever. This is just like, something that is gonna do legal research for me. And one of his friends had sent him something that it wrote. And my brother wanted to know, does it draft? And they said, not today, but it will imminently. My brother totally rolled his eyes. He's like, yeah, what's imminent? And they gave a date, and that date was within like 3 weeks. And he got excited. And he said, is it going to draft discovery? Yeah. Will it draft motions? Yes. Will it draft pleadings? Yes. Will it draft jury questions? Yes. Motion in limine? Yes. And then finally, the guy just cut him off and said, it's going to draft everything you need for litigation. And, he got really interested at that point.
And I think the drafting thing of all AI is really compelling. You have a new book coming out, and it can learn your, there you go, exit on top. It can learn your tone. We've used it several times internally. When communicating with clients, we're all very fond of personality types, right? And certain people want you to get to the point. Other people, need you to fluff it a little, right? All those different kinds. You can plug this in and say, basically, I want to deliver this message, but I want it sent this way. And it can do that in seconds, where in the past, think about how much time you spent wordsmithing something.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to what Peter Shankman said.
Yeah.
Communicating with clients in the way they want to be communicated with, using their language.
Right.
Yeah. It's
and
awesome.
That's hard to do. Right. So,
and it's also drafting in the way that the judge wants to see it.
So all of this is going to create efficiencies for us, right? It's just going to make our lives a lot easier is the takeaway from AI, right? You can get it for specific industries. I hear about like search engines embedding this, because I probably go more to AI these days, to Google something before I go to Google. I
haven't made that switch, but I have seen what Google's going to come out with.
Yeah.
Cool.
So For example, I can go into AI and I'm in an Excel program and I'm like, okay, this is the question I need answered. And I can tell them, how do I figure out this if this information is in column A, this information is in column B, and this information is in column C1. It writes me the Excel formula.
Seriously?
Seriously, it's like super, super cool. So AI is going to give us efficiencies, even if we don't want it, even if the data isn't necessarily time sensitive, right? It is incredibly powerful at really cutting our learning curve, right? And so as we get more efficient, I think one of the other things you were talking about is, what do we keep for ourselves and what gets passed on to our clients?
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this a lot. And I think when we look at contingency firms, it's not that's a no-brainer. It's going to make contingency firms more efficient. Nothing's going to get passed along to the client. Somewhere down the line, they might get more savvy and try to negotiate that 1/3 that you historically have gotten, or 40% if it goes to trial. But it's probably not going to do anything but boost your profitability.
Same thing probably could be said for people who bill on a flat fee basis. That you're going to keep that, you're good. The game with flat fee is always efficiency, efficiency, efficiency.
Question is, what do the hourly firms do? And
can you bill for the hours that AI
I've talked to a bunch of people and had very different conversations. So my brother has a business litigation firm, and it is the same clients over and over and over. And it's all about relationships for him. And with AI coming in, I think firms like his have a great opportunity to go to them and say, look, we are able to use this, and we're going to be able to pass along, some savings to you. Do they have to pass along all the savings? No. But do I think by being proactive and talking about it, they can pass along some and engender some goodwill? Yeah.
Yeah, but aren't we fighting to zero?
But we don't want to do a race to the bottom, which is why I think being proactive is good. I've talked to other attorneys that are like, here's the deal. We bill what we bill for an activity. When you go get your car fixed at the dealership, there's a manual that tells them how much time it's supposed to take to do a particular thing. The way the dealership makes money is that they figure out how to do it faster. I mean, it's basically flat fee billing. There are a lot of big firms that bill hourly, but it's flat fee.
Oh, right, because a memo takes
0.7.
Mm-hmm.
It always takes 0.7. It takes a minimum of 0.7, unless it takes more, but it always takes at least 0.7.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and I've talked to attorneys that are like, why would we ever change that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So, there's so many things, because this gets into, I think, ethics, right? And bar associations. And I think that weren't people called to testify in front of Senate or something to get ahead of this, because of all the issues that we've been kind of solving on the fly with the internet, that they're thinking we should get ahead of AI?
Yeah. I mean, what are we going to do? And should we be going to something that is more of value-based billing?
Mm-hmm.
What is it worth to the client to get this problem solved?
Mm-hmm. And one could argue that's what they're doing.
one could argue, but is a memo always worth 0.7?
Mhm.
Because your memo may be worth more to you than it is to me.
Mhm.
And you like value-based billing, don't you?
Yes and no. If I were I lean more to value-based billing / flat fee-based billing. And of course, contingency to me is almost ideal because you got skin in the game.
Yeah.
The outcome is what you get paid off of, but it's not for every type of activity. I think in general, understanding where your clients see value is what we all should strive for. Whether we bill that way or not is what it does. The client value timeliness? Do they value communication? Do they value the end justifies the means? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that's great. Why is your client doing what they're doing? We have a client who is really mad at his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And is structuring things in his firm for a particular reason for a number of years. And I'm like, let me get this straight. We are going to make less money and pay more taxes for this amount of time because you're pissed. He's like, yep. I'm like, okay, as long as we know what we're working with. It's the same thing for your clients. What's their motivation? What are they doing?
Right.
And how do we accommodate that?
And so speaking about clients, the struggle that I see, and AI brings this to the point, is they all seem to kind of be reinventing the wheel, right? Like you have the people who are out there trying to figure out how to use AI, right? Then we're going to have software companies like the ones that you just mentioned that are going to customize it for different industries, right? To address issues like confidentiality and whatnot. And are we going to see people left behind? I mean, we have a brand new client who acquired a company and everything they have is still on paper.
Oh, yeah.
And so is this really going to separate us into two categories of who embraces technology and who doesn't? And how are we going to come up to speed to evaluate and make decisions? Because you know how clients make decisions. It's like, what's the most popular one? Okay, I'm going with that. Right? Automation. I think AI can do a lot of automation, right? How do I can put into it, if I receive this email and I want this checklist created based upon that email, how do I create automation in Power Automate? I think we all get stuck knowing that these incredible efficiencies are out there, but they're like just within reach, right? They're just out of reach for us. So you were saying that what the real impact of AI is how we develop the next generation. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because all of these hacks.
People keep dismissing me and saying, oh, we're still not worried about that. Not concerned. Not a big deal. This is going to be great. It's going to make new attorneys so efficient. And I'm like, but here's the thing. In the medical field, they say, what is it? Watch one, do one, teach one. And I think it's more than one. I'm hoping it's more than one. I think it's hundreds or thousands. And I think that happens in the legal field too. And it creates a neural pathway that you just automatically do it. You know how to do it. And so when you hand a 20 or 30-year attorney a document, they read it, and they just know things. And I think what people are forgetting is that those things that they just know, those decisions they make, that is a whole lot of decisions that they make in milliseconds because of years and years and years of experience.
Mhm.
And if we are all of a sudden taking that work that we were doing by hand, that they were using to learn, and we're now feeding it into a machine and the machine's just spitting it out, how much learning is happening? Because here are a couple of interesting facts about the human brain. The human brain is really bad at finding mistakes.
Mm.
And especially bad when it's been told that it's right. So when we look at something from AI, we're going to think that it's right because we've been told that it's right. We're also bad at noticing when things are missing.
Mm.
So I worry about these young attorneys. Like, how much of a crutch is this going to be?
Well, and we could argue all day long about how the internet has dumbed everything down, right? You know,
Yeah.
we don't know how to spell anymore because we have autocorrect in just about everything, right? You know, and the intelligentsia or the debate, the general debate is going away because, you know, just Google it, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because, you know, one of the things we train our CFOs on, who are all of a certain age, is that one of the best things that you bring to this job and to your clients is those years of experience, right? And we read a lot, and one of the things we read is fail often and fail quickly. Is this going to keep us from failing? Because failing seems to be the way we learn as opposed to succeeding.
Yeah. So what it tells me is that we are going to have to make a concerted effort to train, because the way we have historically trained is by giving them something to do,
Mhm.
having them do it.
Mhm.
The way they do it is going to fundamentally change. They're not going to learn.
Mhm.
So we are going to need to train them a different way.
I'd love to know how the brain could be trained to not assume things are correct. You know what I mean? To be more critical.
Yeah, I think that's above my pay grade.
Right? So,
You know, one of my brother's partners said that when I was talking about the brain and how it learns and in not seeing mistakes, he's like, no. That is what we do. We are taught to find mistakes. That's what we learn in law school.
mhm.
And my brother's like, yeah, we're taught to find mistakes in what we draft.
Mm. So
That
I
was
think
interesting.
you sent me somewhere your analysis of these tools that lay on top of Chat GPT, right? Or
I
the
did.
customized AI. And I thought that was interesting. While it was obviously just focused on legal, how did you go about putting that together? You know, can you just go out there and Google AI programs for legal or AI programs for you know, a SaaS company? You know what I'm saying?
You can. So first of all, I don't want to make people go out and do research I've already done. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you a QR code. I'm going to share my screen. And there's a QR code. You can go use the QR code and grab that if you want. So yeah, I started with Google and I Googled lots of them, which ones, you know, what works, what doesn't work, what does this one do, what does that one do, which one works best for contracts, which ones work best for this other thing. By the way, Case Text CoCounsel's the one that is about to release the ability to draft. I talked to them a few days ago. They haven't released it yet. They're going to. So yeah, you start with Google, and then I researched. I went to all of their websites. I compared them. I went to all of the websites that it had compared them. I did demos. I mean, like with anything else, it all begins and ends with the internet. I did not, however, go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT. I did not ask it to evaluate itself.
Right. So obviously we have done this research as it relates to our legal clients and can give them with the QR code a shortcut. Any other like advice on like how to get started with AI on, is this something that you delegate, right? If technology isn't your sweet spot, do you look at your biggest problem and just try to solve it with AI?
I don't know, Pam, you might be better at answering those questions than I am. You're our integrator. You're our ops person.
Yeah.
I go off and get creative with it.
Yeah. I think that I have seen everybody use it differently. Like people will come on to calls with me and they're like, oh, I love ChatGPT. I'm like, why? Oh my goodness. I am on this new diet and I put that in there and ask them for a shopping list and a menu plan. I'm like, okay. Where, before with Google, you'd have to Google 4 or 5 things and, so on and so forth. So like with everything, it can make things, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. So I've always found for what am I doing that's really, really hard? Like, either hard when I go to do it or consumes more time than I thought it should consume. But I've also put the challenge out internally to say to the team, how can we use this? At the same time, we've had to come up with with some guidance to the team on what they can and cannot do. Because obviously security is top of mind for us.
Yeah. Can you think of any of those off the top of your mind? Off the top of your head?
Things not to do?
Yeah. What were, I can't remember what was on that list. What were some of those parameters?
It basically comes down to, you don't put anything out there that you don't want other people to see. Right. So I don't care if you're seeing my search for an Excel formula. I really don't care if you think I'm out there on a diet. Right. But I don't want you to see data. We've had people put, one of the things we do a lot is summarize this, but you can also put data out and say, see the patterns. Mm-hmm. But you can't put data out there to see the trends if there's any identifying information.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you copy and paste out of ChatGPT into like a Word document, it shows up differently. And so you have to like paste
the formatting thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like in Excel when you paste values and not formats, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and I'm sure in the metadata somewhere there's something that says, because I understand this is being used a lot in education, and that professors have a way to see if you've used ChatGPT or not. Like they can, your paper, they can.
Oh. There is a judge in Dallas that makes you sign an attestation saying that you have not used AI on anything that you have turned into him. I can't imagine that's going to last very long, but he's doing it right now.
Right.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we've talked about a lot of stuff. And I don't know that we have provided a lot of answers. I think we've asked a lot of questions. I think we've talked about things. I don't know that this is something where there are hard and fast rules and answers. I think that this is new technology. I think that everybody's learning. I think that we are all exploring. I think it's a matter of looking at it and figuring out what works for you. And being aware of constraints and risks.
And knowing that there are people that are far more familiar with this technology that will solve some of the problems that we don't necessarily need to solve them independently. And knowing where that line is between, you know, we all can Google, some of us are better than others. But at what point do you need to turn to a more proprietary piece of software that sits on top of AI?
Yeah. All right. Pam, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. I love technology, you know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about it.
If anybody has any questions, Brooke, how can they reach us?
They can reach us by emailing either you or me, Pam or Brooke, at cathcap.com, cathcap.com. You can also ask questions in the comments, and we will respond there, or you can send us a Facebook message.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.